Good morning and welcome. This is Enterprise Weekend, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Another time and another day to be excited, of course, to celebrate today, Saturday, being the weekend. My name is Henry Igwebike.
And I am Jane. I know it's good to have you all join us. And today, interestingly, is World Press Day.
Yeah, our
May
day,
3rd.
World Press Day, exactly. So
Right.
today we'll be talking about a lot about that and so much more. But please do well to be part of what we do. You can always find and reach us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. We're very so honored to have with us joining us right here in our studios, Emeka Amadunago, journalist, public affairs analyst. Thank you so very much, Emeka.
Yeah, my pleasure.
For being here. All right, Jane, let's kick off.
All right, kicking off. Yes, we will not kick off without us. And us, who are we? Yes, kicking off,
Yeah,
Henry. The intersection of artificial intelligence is what is in the book now. It is what is trending now. It is the order of the day for us all. And then and press freedom took center stage yesterday as the National Assembly legal experts and media professionals gathered in Abuja to mark World Press Freedom Day, right? Okay, so talking about artificial intelligence, we all know that this is the form that most journalists today use to fast-track work, and everyone seems to be happy about it. Yes. But the twist to it is how credible, how can we say that we can, the transparency that is being looked up on media personnel can be given or attributed to artificial intelligence.
Very, very true. And I think just before we get into talking about that, we have to make reference, of course, to TVC, which, of course, has launched an AI personality or personalities doing anchoring on behalf of press and broadcasters. Emeka, I would love you to speak to that particular matter just before we get to other salient issues.
Yeah, today is World Press Freedom Day, and it's a day marked globally, to discuss issues around the practice of journalism and the safety of journalists. And well, one of the challenges facing the profession today is the gradual introduction of artificial intelligence, to expand the frontiers of journalism. So those who have that in mind, that's what they make it out to be. But the question is that over the years, journalism has actually been about humanizing experiences. And that is why, we stay glued to our screens, watching reports, features, presentations, and all of that. And so, when you now begin to replace human journalists with robotic devices, then the question comes that how do you intend to run the entire gamut of journalism? How will that fit into journalism? Because the experience is not personal. There's no interpersonal relationship. It's just about a pre-programmed interaction, and so you will still be depending on history generated by human beings. You'll be depending on experiences generated by human beings. You'll be depending on pre-programmed formats generated by human beings. So why are we in a hurry to replace humans with robotic devices in journalism?
All right, when you call it challenges, I begin to wonder how that is a challenge when, media, has decided that this is a way to make work faster.
No. It's more about businessmen like Bill Gates, Steve Bartlett, and all those and all those other people, TVC News in Lagos, who are just trying to replace humans with that. Okay, I'll give you an example. In journalism, you there is situational journalism in solutions journalism. If you're reporting a flood, as a journalist, you might be expected to stand inside the flood. So how are you going to now use artificial intelligence to report it? You just hang a camera from a distance. Okay, everybody. Now, let it be a personal perspective. Okay, you can see the flood over there, but the human experience. Maybe if you're interviewing, people who have gone through a traumatic experience, how are you going to, how do you translate your experience into words, into gestures, into actions, into reports that draw, that keep people glued to the screens? There's a lot more to journalism than just reeling the news. Because, by the way, everybody has access. As long as you have a smartphone, you have access to the news in different formats. So, to bring in artificial intelligence, it's just a way for me of businessmen trying to cut costs. So but it's not going to me, it's not going to make any. It's not just about welcome. It's not going to make any impact. We are still going to stay glued to our good old journalism. It's just like you have a lot of people. Oh, they said the newspaper in print format will die. It has refused to die because don't forget. You can see now the deterioration, among young people in terms of thought, in terms of language, in terms of articulation. It is a problem.
Read any longer.
So you see, but the good old newspaper, while we were children, when we went to public libraries, we went to libraries in our schools had libraries. So you sat down to read a newspaper and you got involved with the flow, with the articulation and all of that. But these days, you see people now reducing, sentences into short, into abbreviations. How do you communicate that way? You are removing the human experience and just bringing gadgets in between. And then what kind of human beings are you going to be, disseminating your news to? They want a personal experience. If you're telling a woman, for instance, about, how to care better for her baby, okay, like being a journalist, yes, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor, but being the son, of nurses, my father was a nurse, my mother was a nurse, and then having had the experience of watching them practice over the years and all of that, before my dad became a banker and all of that. Now, adding to my experience in journalism, there are things I can tell you, have you been going for your antenatal? Have you, do they check you for this? Did you do this? Did you ask? Do you know you can ask your doctor questions? And all of that. So in that way, I can, transform what I have, into value to the person I'm talking to. But if it's just a gadget, what the gadget will do is to pick experiences, and information, and just dish it out without that interpersonal touch.
Very, very true. And Jane, more pragmatic, it is. We're both, broadcasters, and you will agree with me that sometimes when you read the news, apart from enunciation, all right, and modulation, the empathy has to be there. Of course. There are stories you are reading right now, that empathy has to be there so you can communicate to that one audience, that one person that you're talking to.
I think that sometimes when the volume of the television set is being turned down and there is a kind of emotion that someone watching you would have seen and say, what's going on? Yes. Let me increase the volume and find out.
Let me just quickly drop some. Just give me 2 seconds to drop something. A friend of mine who is, a senior broadcaster today said, the day Abacha died, General Sani Abacha, former head of state, died, that she didn't know what made her just put on black that day. And she got news of Abacha's death late. She didn't know what it was just, just a normal routine. She just put on a black attire, and appeared for the flagship news in black. And then people saw her, We begin with news that, the late General Sani Abacha, head of state,
and they were quickly drawn
has died, And, people connected with that black attack. That, this thing touches people, this news is touching, You understand? How will you, are you going to dress a robot in?
Well, as much as such personalities, of course, wouldn't have any social media handles, because that's why most of us, we have our social media handles attached, so they can connect to us, personally, outside of this place, and we can relate to our people. They wouldn't have theirs because, of course, they are fictional, spirits that are not living. So it's actually a very bad one. As much as we would embrace technology, it's not everything that we should use technology for. I'd love to believe. Yes. So let's get into other matters, making rounds from our newspapers, and we have the Punch, the Saturday Punch. Yes.
All right, beginning with Punch newspaper, what do we have here? We have from there, the top head there, we have Atiku slams Tinubu as president's son battles torture allegations.
Yes, and also we have Fabio Natasha, US-based activist in war of words over leaked audio.
Right on the big story there, we have 80 billion naira found in sacked MD's bank accounts. Interesting.
Very interesting. And also we have finally beaten to that sad tale of parental correction that ended in a tragedy. Emeka, let's take a look at Fabio Natasha issue that refuses to go away. Every single day it's looking more like a serial.
Natasha is always in the news.
Yes, it's looking more like a serial that has a connection and transition. Just after the end of one episode, we move on to another one. Now, the latest right now is a lady who said she had leaked audio conversation that she had with Natasha on everything that happened and all. Please help us.
Natasha has said that audio conversation is fake. You see, that is part of what we're talking about, AI.
So we are going to say it's AI generated.
Yes, that's what she's saying. And that lady, the so-called, the person so-called US-based, is someone I had a nasty experience with many years ago. And I would be very careful, to believe anything such a person would say. And so, what I want to just add to it is that Akpabio got a restraining court order against Natasha, granting interviews. How come they are the ones now still bringing the same matter back to the media? You said Natasha could not grant her press interviews. Okay, she stopped granting press interviews. But you are now, it is your lawyer, Mr. Olisagbakoba, SAN, who has been on air twice, telling Natasha to retract her allegations against Akpabio. But there are some cases in court. Are you now trying to jump ahead of the court? Are you now trying to force the fait accompli on the courts? So what I just see in all of these things is that, the very people looking for justice do not seem to be very interested in pushing the bounds of justice, in allowing justice to take its course. So all of these things, to me, are just diversionary. That somebody said that Natasha offered her 200 million to accuse Akpabio of organ trafficking. Well, I will believe that that snow will fall in Lagos, more easily than such a thing, So, the thing is that they think Nigerians have become so battered by hunger that when we hear, these days you don't hear about, millionaires. You hear somebody who say a billionaire businessman. And there is nothing you can see, that indicates being a billionaire, this and that and the other. So I think they should just let us rest. Look, this issue between Natasha and Akpabio is something that they can settle as colleagues. It's something they can settle as colleagues.
Okay, but
all of this, yes.
When it's something they can settle as colleagues when one is feeling that she's being battered and she's being cheated, and do you think that justice will ever take its course? Because she's not backing down.
You see,
that's one strength.
Between a man and a woman, there are certain things that with due respect, without prejudice to the court matter, there are certain things that might be easily, that might be difficult to be easily proven. Now, it will now come down to, of course, witnesses, because she mentioned incidents that so-and-so person knew about it, so-and-so person knew about it, and all of that. But for me, they have been colleagues, they have been senators, these kinds of things, happen between them. And remember, there was a woman, Mrs. Joy Nunez, former MD of Niger Delta Development Commission, who accused Akpabio of the same thing. That one is still hanging there. That is still hanging there. So I think this matter should have been better handled. And with those senior advocates, so this Agbakoba and one other senior advocates, coming, trying to push certain, a certain narrative, I think it will not help matters. It will not help matters. The other senior advocate pulled something from the said US-based ladies' audio that said that Nigerians are gullible and hungry. And I can see people just pushing. Look, let's be very mindful of the things we cast on ourselves. Because if you think when you talk about gullible and hungry, you're referring to others. Circumstances might just make you actually become gullible and really hungry. It's just a matter of time. So I think this matter, I think well-meaning Nigerians, I know some may have tried to step in. Well-meaning Nigerians should step in and find a way to sort out this matter, because it's embarrassing. It has gone all over the world. They should find a way to sort out this matter so that justice can be served. But you see, there's something about going to court. Like somebody once said, that if a lawyer tells you go to court, go to court. Will the lawyer sign a guarantee, give you a written guarantee, sign guarantee that you will win? So sometimes that's why sometimes people are advised it's better to settle matters or matters out of court.
Yeah. Very, very true. While we talk about how gullible, or not Nigerians are, we'll have to talk about this 18 billion Naira found in sacked MD's bank accounts. Port Harcourt, Warri, Kaduna refineries MDs arrested. Kyari, 13 senior ex-NNPCL officials face probe. Emeka Madunago, lots of people would say this is witch hunt. After Tinubu had used them, he had dumped them, and therefore going around to want to, accuse them. Do you think that is the truth?
The sad thing was this for me. Tinubu came in. You moved Emefiele out. You moved a lot of people who served under Buhari out, and you left Mele Kyari. That was a very bad move, and a lot of us said it. You see, you have your agenda as an administration. You bring in your people. You brought in Cardoso, CBN governor. You brought in Wale Edun, Minister of Finance. And they have been trying their measures, to handle the devaluation of the Naira, the floating of the Naira, the removal of subsidy. They've been doing their best in line with your, what do they call that, their agenda?
A renewed hope.
Renewed hope agenda, yes. Now, you left a Kyari who was appointed by a previous administration to pursue a different agenda. Under Buhari, the government decided to defend the Naira. They spent billions defending the Naira. But you came in and decided to float the Naira. How do you now compare oranges with apples? That is one. Two, in doing that, in floating the Naira, of course, you knew that you needed to, for instance, ramp up your exports. Your main export is crude, But due to vandalism and some other things, your production dropped drastically. Your daily production dropped drastically. And you've been talking of ramping up production from 1.5 million barrels per day that you met it. You have been talking of 2.2, which is the OPEC quota for Nigeria. Talking of ramping up to 2.2, 2.3, even 2.5. How will you achieve that with someone, from a previous dispensation? And you now left this man to complete his tenure. 10 years tenure. And the next thing said, no, he was removed. You didn't even know which excuse to give. Some of your people said he was removed. No, some of your people said he had come to 60 years, retirement age. So that's why you are just banding all kinds of things. It doesn't show that you sit down to think through your policies. And that is why we have all of this confusion everywhere. You know, policy mismatch. If you're floating the naira, know that one, you're going to bring in, you're going to have an NNPC GMD who will now say, oh, how are we going to make sure that we, the entire oil production, upstream, midstream, downstream, is going to bring in more dollars into Nigeria. There wouldn't have been that problem between NNPC and Dangote in the first place. It was unnecessary. Import your fuel if you want to import your fuel. Let Dangote produce and sell. At the end of the day, because you made a mistake floating the naira immediately after, removing subsidy. If you had allowed subsidy removal to land, to percolate for like a year, within 9 months, you would have just found out the price would have settled around maybe 500 or 600 and maybe gradually crawled back to maybe 400. Maybe by now, we'll be buying fuel at 400 naira. If you look at the way things, generally work in Nigeria. Now, you brought in this floating of that. That means you received assurances from Kyari that don't worry, we'll be able to, support this.
3 million barrels.
Yes, we'll be able to ramp up and all. But at the end of the day, you have not ramped up. You went up to 1.7 million barrels per day. You still came back again to around 1.5. So what was Kyari doing for you? You claim that the refineries, you are going to fix the refineries, Port Harcourt refinery, nothing. You claim you are fixing Warri. You don't have a catalytic converting unit in either Port Harcourt or Warri. But you now spent $894 million saying you are fixing Warri. You took a loan of $1.5 billion saying you are fixing Port Harcourt. And you see, if you put all that money together, that's almost about $3 billion. Let me tell you, it will have built a brand new 60,000 barrels per day refinery. Because you know what? Those refineries are old. They are obsolete. Just sell them off. Sell off their licenses for people to use in building new refineries. But when you continue, it's just like a factory. You get to a time, a factory is decommissioned. Yeah. Or like a nuclear facility, you decommission it and then start afresh. Because the technology is obsolete. Yeah. So you can't be running in today's world. You say you are competing with Dangote. Dangote has 21st century technology. And you are competing with Dangote with technology of the 80s. A gap of 20 years. When you know that technology keeps getting updated. Every day, technology keeps... Look at your phone now.
More like
go to the market and look for this kind of phone. You will see that they will tell you, we don't have this type, but we have an updated version. And there may be nothing different. Maybe just maybe the camera, or they've added something or the other. So the reality is this: you've now seen 80 billion naira found in the account of an MD. Look, corruption in Nigeria should be made a capital offense. Something like this, you should try somewhere like this and let him be executed. So that money, all this money people are stealing, you must prevent it, because Nigerians are living in avoidable poverty. So it is time to use some people as an example. Tie some people to the stakes. Take everything they own, tie them to the stakes and get them executed. You see this corruption, if we can bring it down, this country will thrive. There will be light. You see this light you don't see? There will be light. You see this oil vandalism, it will disappear. The vandals will disappear. And you will have a virile economy.
Very, very true. Of course, I do not know if we have enough time to look at other papers. If not,
we can just run through it. We have
the
Vanguard.
All right.
Yes.
So, in 60 seconds, if you may, Mecca, let's just take a look at this other issue here. Tinubu's twin strategy for cabinet appointments to satisfy politicians as well as use experts to drive development. Here we go again. The compensatory form of largesse as form of ministerial appointments, transactional yet again.
That is the problem. That's the problem. like I say, you have over 40 ministers. There are positions you can give, you know, for just paddy. But there are key positions you cannot give, you cannot but look for the best. And let me tell you something. If you say you are a man of strategy, you've been around for 20 years, you have built men, we expect you to bring the best. Or were you busy building shop floor people? That's not what I'm talking about. If you say you are, for 20 years, you've been grooming men, we expect. Look at in Canada, the new Prime Minister, Carney. He is one of the best economists in the world. You look for somebody like that, award winners, people who have their heads screwed well on their necks. Don't bring people of another era, people who did banking and all those things in another era, and then you're bringing them to today. This is 21st century. You didn't have fintechs in the 80s, in the 90s, but today you have fintechs.
And which is why people would always question the competence level of Cardoso, you know, who retired a very long time ago.
Yeah, long time. You now brought him out of retirement. Okay, look at now. There is this issue about, should you own a bank account or should you have a wallet? That's an issue in the financial services industry. Should you have a bank account or should you have a wallet? A wallet is more flexible. That's why you see banks pushing their, you know, their digital, their, you know, their apps, pushing you, oh, you should use their apps more often. While you see fintechs, they give you a wallet. Now, the wallet allows you to do much more than just banking. And which you now see banks, they've, you know, tweaked their apps. And, you know, so why not just move on and make it a wallet? So that with it, you can do many things. You can invest, you can make payments. There are so many things. So, contactless banking. But every day, there are many bank branches you go to. You must see the banking hall filled up. What are people looking for? These are things that they can sit in the comfort of their homes and do. Business they can transact from the comfort of their homes.
And fintech actually have been able to achieve some of this.
Do you know the addresses of any of these fintechs?
Very true.
Do you know where they have addresses? But do you care?
Nobody cares.
You don't even care.
As long as the system is working, as long as the application
That's what we're talking about. And that is the mantra of the 21st century. Contactless, swift, efficient. But what do we have? We are still going back to all those Mele Kiaris and all those people of an outdated era. My father was a banker, but I had the money to set up a bank. I will not put my father, I will not even bring him anywhere near that bank. At all. I will not bring him anywhere near that bank. Because your era is outdated. I'm a journalist, but I'm talking about in the next 5-10 years, what will I be doing near, you know, near any media stuff? Because younger people would have come up with better ways of doing things. So it's better I just sit somewhere as an investor and just bring in money. Then allow people with current ideas. So when you talk about compensatory, please, the economy is in the intensive care unit of the hospital. You need experts who can revive it, bring it out first of all to convalescence, and then gradually nurse it back to health. Because before you can now say, okay, my paddy, just take care of it. I trust that you will not allow money to disappear here. I trust you will not allow people to steal the equipment. But for now, what we need are people who can bring this economy back on track.
Very, very true. Very, very true. You know, little wonder, you know, so many people have questioned why we have food insecurity when we have two ministers heading the agriculture in Nigeria, Minister for Agriculture and Minister of State for Agriculture. We do not even know, as press people, we don't even know who they are.
You even have a livestock, Minister of Livestock Development.
Minister of Livestock. You know, we don't know who these people are.
Wonder why people always say, what exactly are they doing in this position? So I can't agree less with Mr. Remeka about I would just say it is analog era and the digital era, which
even you know we're having a post-digital era. People are now implanting chips.
Very true. And it's becoming illegitimate.
Yes, so we're getting beyond the digital. It's getting to another era.
Very true. Because nowadays in some European countries you don't even need a card to do transactions, just your eyeballs. You just look into whatever device.
Facial recognition.
You can
recognize
it's happening already.
Your account and all. And so we hope that we would catch up in Nigeria. Hope that our leaders who should do better, should do what they ought to do, just to ensure that we get up and move. That's all we have for you on this particular segment. Just to let you know, Emeka will be here to take us on our main conversation. And when we return, Atiku slams Tinubu as president's son battles of torture allegations. That in a bit, Still Enterprise Weekend. Please don't go anywhere.